This is the Spokane Soccer Show, and I am your host, Benji Wade. On today's show, Zephyr FC are now level on points with Fort Lauderdale and Brooklyn FC in the USL Super League after their exhilarating 3-2 win over Tampa Bay on Saturday, and Velocity FC have opened their 2025 Jägermeister account with 3 points after a convincing 2-1 defeat of USL Championship team Oakland Roots. Roots? How do you pronounce that word, folks? I had a moment where I wasn't quite sure, and my guest on the podcast today called me out on it. Is it Roots or Roots, or can you say either one? All of that plus my conversation with former Northern Colorado Hailstorm manager Eamon Zayed. But let's start, dear listener, with a few Spokane Soccer Show shout-outs. Shout out Kenzie Weinert. 3 goals and an assist since coming onto the Spokane Soccer Show. Coincidence? I couldn't say. I mean, everybody remembers Sophie and I giving her a little pep talk saying, Kenzie, chill. The goal contributions, they're coming. You're doing every single thing a winger and forward is supposed to do for a team. Well, 3 days after that podcast was released, Kenzie scored her first goal, then had an assist versus Dallas. And this weekend against Tampa Bay on Saturday, she bagged a brace. A brace is 2 goals, in case you were wondering. So that's 3 goals and an assist in the last 5 games. Shout out Kenzie Weinert. Also, shout out Zephyr FC, period, for bouncing back from a quite forgettable 3-0 loss against Carolina FC. Hey, Carolina is the informed team. They're really, really good. They're going to be tough to beat for the rest of the season. It just is what it is. But they bounced back to not just win, but also play very, very well against an informed Tampa Bay. Last Saturday, those runs from Kenzie were awesome. I mean, did everybody else note that? Those runs, some of those like angles that she was getting in behind the lines and her teammates were finding her. Much more to say about Zephyr FC on the next podcast, but I was so impressed and so stoked about that outcome. Shout out Pierre Reedy. It comes up in my conversation with Eamon Zayed, but I didn't know that he would even be a starter coming into the 2025 season, to be totally honest with you. And holy hell, Pierre Reedy, Speedy Reedy, in case you missed it, has been phenomenal yet again for this club. He should have had a goal yesterday in the first minute of the game, literally the first minute against Oakland, but the center ref waved it off for reasons I am never going to understand. So shout out Pierre Reedy. You have been a special player once again for this club. Shout out Spokane Shadows, Jennah Wanner, former G-Prep and Spokane Shadow player, Jennah Wanner. She's now a midfielder for the University of Wyoming, bagged a brace of her own in some spring soccer against Northern Colorado on Saturday. That means that she has 5 goals in spring soccer as a true freshman. One of them was an absolute banger. I will try to upload a video of that goal. One more shout out. I have to bring up the Northwest Autism Center and the Steps for Autism event this weekend. It was so much fun. I got to spend some time with my sponsor, Spokane City Credit Union. I got to see and experience so much kindness from the city of Spokane. It just reminded me why I love this community so much. And I got to walk with my friend Ryan from Side by Side Spokane, got to catch up with my friend Deanna from Spokane City Credit Union, met so many wonderful people. It was just a great time. And then, of course, I was treated to a fantastic game from Zephyr FC. So my Saturday was really genuinely perfect. I know Lee Veidman might have had a better Sunday than I had as a Saturday, but that's kind of picking nits. I mean, Newcastle won. I got to go to the Steps for Autism event, and then I got to watch Zephyr beat Tampa Bay. So, we'll call it a draw, Lee Veidman. Do you have an idea for a shout out, listener? Well, slide into the DMs. I'm not afraid to shout something out that I don't know about. So if something happened in the soccer world that you think should be shouted out, you know where to find me in the DMs or SpokaneSoccerShow@gmail.com. Okay, it's time to introduce my guest on today's podcast, Eamon Zayed. You all know Eamon as the former manager of Northern Colorado Hailstorm. He was their manager since their first ever season in League One, which was 3 total seasons, I think they had, before they shut down operations in League One last year. I shouldn't say they shut down. There were some things that happened. You can Google it. I don't really get into it on this podcast because I wanted to focus on my conversation about Eamon, the player, the manager, and the person who has so many insights about 3 particular players on our team, of course, but also his friendship with Lee Veidman and many more things. I also want to mention that he had a lot of success as the Hailstorm manager. He sported a 58% win percentage, which is very impressive. The Northern Colorado Hailstorm finished 7th in 2022, their first season, 3rd in 2023, and then 2nd last year. Eamon was also nominated for Manager of the Year, quite deservedly, in both 2023 and 2024. Eamon Zayed has a reputation for developing players into taking good players and turning them into great players, or taking great players and turning them into exceptional players. And I include players like Arthur Rogers, Trevor Amon, Bruno Rendon. We probably all remember Bruno Rendon terrorizing Spokane Velocity last year, in addition to every other team that played in League One. And of course, current Velocity FC players, David Garcia, Lucky Opera, and Marky Hernandez. So without further ado, let's get to my conversation with former Northern Colorado Hailstorm manager, Eamon Zayed. Welcome to the Spokane Soccer Show, Eamon Zayed. I have never talked to you face to face. This is the first time. We've had phone calls, but now we're seeing each other eye to eye. This is great. I'm so excited to chat with you about many things. Welcome to the Spokane Soccer Show, my friend.
Yeah, look, delighted to be on and talking football, talking soccer. It's I miss it. Listen, I still talk about it, obviously, on the daily, but I miss being in and around it every day and training, preparing for games. So, yeah, this kind of talking about it makes up for it slightly.
Yeah. Okay. So the last time we chatted, you confessed to me you're getting ready to go to Dublin. I think tomorrow. Is that right?
Later on tonight. I'll get there tomorrow. So later on tonight, it is, as we speak, it is 1 p.m. Colorado time. I fly out to Dublin, Ireland later on tonight. I get there tomorrow morning. A couple of things going on back home, but ultimately I'm starting my UEFA Pro license, which is massive. I've it's kind of been in the works for the last kind of year, thinking about when the best time was to start that the UEFA Pro license and the process. So I'm delighted to be starting it now, and that'll keep me busy for sure.
Yeah. Wait, and you are, for my listeners, I want them to understand, you would consider yourself friends with Lee Veidman, right?
100%. Yeah.
And
yeah. No,
Lee's on an A license too. Are you both you're both pursuing a pro at the same time, aren't you?
Yeah, so I did my licenses through UEFA with the Irish Federation. Lee, I spoke to Lee about this. I think he did his licenses with the US Federation. I think he started his UEFA process, but I think he's further along the line. I'm not quite sure if he has his UEFA A. I know he has his USA for sure, and he's been trying to get onto the US Pro for a while. Because we've talked about it. We've talked about getting onto the Pro and the Pro.
Because he just traveled there for something. He just traveled to Europe for something.
Yeah, I feel like he has his USA and wants to start his US Pro, and I feel like he might have started his UEFA A as well.
Okay.
I definitely, we've talked about this. I know for sure he's tried to get onto the US Pro, and if you want to get onto the US Pro, you have to have your USA. So he definitely has his USA. We've never actually talked about. I've talked about my UEFA Pro. He's never mentioned him starting his UEFA Pro. It's been his US Pro.
Gotcha.
Which alludes to the fact that he must be on that the US process, the license journey there. So,
well, as anyone can tell from your accent, you have some history in Dublin. We're going to get into that. When we chatted last, I asked you if you could bring me with you because I want to go to Dublin so bad. And correct me if I'm wrong, did you mention that you have friends or family in Galway Bay where they filmed the Banshees of Inisherin? Did you say that?
I did indeed. Yeah. No, my sister's partner's from Galway, and they literally just moved after 10 years in Dublin. They just moved to Galway, and the last time I was home, I got to visit their beautiful, beautiful home on a small island. And my sister's partner does a little bit of work for a famous comedian back home in Ireland, Tommy Tiernan. And
I think I know that name.
Yeah, he's massive, big comedian. He's actually really good. If anybody's listening, just YouTube him, Tommy Tiernan, some really, really, really good stuff. But yeah, he has a home on the Aran Islands, and one of them is on the island where the Banshees of Inisherin was filmed. So he promised me next time I'm back in Ireland, we'll take either actually he last time he got wasn't a helicopter, it was a plane ride over there.
Yeah.
It was a very short journey, but yeah, looking forward to getting out there, because it is a brilliant film, brilliant movie. Anybody that hasn't watched it, The Banshees of Inisherin, go and watch it. It's brilliant.
Okay.
The landscape as well that they capture is unbelievable.
Well, you and I are going to go there together. We're going to recreate portions of that movie. I guess that means I'll be the Colin Farrell to your Brendan Gleeson. But don't cut your hand off, man. It's not worth it.
I lose my fingers, do I?
Okay. Do you consider yourself a Martin McDonagh fan? Because I think he's one of the best living filmmakers. Are you a fan? It must be.
Yeah, 100%.
In Bruges, come on.
Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. Very funny. Very funny. I've watched it. I get the banter, the humor. I've watched it before with my missus, and I don't think she gets the banter as much as if you're from there.
Yeah,
Ireland is brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. Really good movie.
I love McDonagh. I haven't seen 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri yet, but a friend of mine told me recently that movie's incredible. Yeah.
It is, yeah. Very good, yeah. Again, quick with it. It's a good movie.
I want all my listeners to be as interested in movies as they are in soccer, because, hey, that's my background. I went to film school once upon a time. I care deeply about cinema. So Martin McDonagh, if you haven't seen his movies, they're some of the best. I think the first of his movies I ever saw, did you ever see his short film with Brendan Gleeson? I think it was called 6 Shooter. Does that sound familiar?
No, I don't think I have seen it.
I'm going to Google it in real time. 6 Shooter. Yeah, it's a short film, very Irish tragedy. I will not give any portion of it away because I think you can stream it. Yeah, it does look like it's still on YouTube. It's a 25-minute short film, but it is magnificent. And it's like the greatest introduction to McDonagh, his humor, his capability as a filmmaker. And of course, Brendan Gleeson became his muse, and Brendan Gleeson is the main character in this short film. So 6 Shooter, look it up. It's on YouTube. Anyway. Enough about movies. I think I would say that my listeners know you, of course, first and foremost as the manager of Northern Colorado Hailstorm, where you had a lot of success. But before we chat about your history with NOCO, I want to talk about your remarkable career as a player in brief, because you've had an enormous career as a player, starting with playing in Leicester City's youth academy. And then you played professionally in the following countries. Take a deep breath, everybody. Ireland, Northern Ireland, England, Norway, Iran, Malaysia, and then the United States, where you finished your playing career in the USL with Indy 11 first, except I don't think they were even in the USL at the time, right? Were they NASL?
NASL, yeah, NASL.
Okay. And then Charlotte Independence, and last but certainly not least, Chattanooga Red Wolves, where you were player manager for a year. Mm-hmm. And correct me if I'm wrong, did you narrowly miss out on playing with Marky Hernandez?
Narrowly. I mean, I technically did. That was the COVID year. So we started preseason as normal.
Okay.
And actually, probably my last goal was a preseason goal against Atlanta United, MLS Next. And I think I'm pretty sure Marky Hernandez was the one that crossed it to me.
Wait, I thought that was true, but I couldn't find anything on Transfer Market that showed the two of you playing together. So it was in a preseason game.
So it was preseason game, and then obviously COVID happened, so the league was effectively cancelled. And then I think we did a mini preseason in July before kicking off the season. I got injured, and a horrific back injury.
Oh no!
That look, I'm 4 years ago, still dealing with. But without getting into that, that was me done for the season. So I only got a couple of preseason games in, and as I said, one was with Marky Hernandez, who I'm pretty confident he crossed it to me to score. So yeah.
Being a player manager is such a unique thing. I don't think it doesn't happen very often, period. But specifically in the United States, can you think of other examples of people being player manager?
I can't. I mean, I can think of like when a coach has got let go during a season and somebody stepped up to fill that role. I remember years ago, before Danny Cruz, I can't remember who it was, in Louisville, the coach got let go, and a couple of the players stepped up and saw out the season. But other than that, no, I can't really. Now, listen, the reason why I went to Chattanooga as a player coach was the first person that brought me over to the States in the 11 was the late Tim Hankinson. Brilliant soccer person. And unfortunately passed away not long ago. But he brought me over here, and he was the one that asked me to join Chattanooga as a player assistant. He was aware that I completed my UEFA B and was doing my UEFA A license, and he said, "Come along and let's do this together." So that was brilliant opportunity to work under him.
Yeah, I think the example of player manager that comes to mind for me wasn't Gianluca Vialli for Chelsea. Wasn't he a player manager for a minute there back in the late 90s? Does that ring a bell?
I like to think my football history and my statistics are spot on, but that's one I don't remember.
Okay.
No, I'm not a Chelsea fan, so.
Do you have a Premier League team?
Look, I'm embarrassed to say it. Years ago, growing up, it was Manchester United. They really turned me off. The last kind of 5 to 10 years, I've just not enjoyed watching them. I actually really enjoyed watching Liverpool this season. I know Lee's a big Liverpool fan. It was great to see them obviously lift the trophy yesterday. But
he was tickled as shit yesterday. Oh my God. Yeah. The grin on his face when he walked over to chat with me after the game. I'm like, is it because of the win I'm pretty sure it was because of the Jägermeister Cup win. I know he was very excited about that, but he couldn't have hurt his feelings too much that Liverpool were carrying the Premier League title again.
I think it was a great day for him all around.
He was very happy.
He was buzzing, but no, listen, Liverpool have been fantastic to watch this year. I just enjoy watching attractive football and kind of exciting, fast-paced, attacking football, which I feel like Liverpool had this year. But yeah, anyway, Manchester United have let me down too many times over the last, as I said, 5 to 10 years. Ever since Alex Ferguson left, I just never been the same. So kind of, I can't claim to be a Man United supporter because I really don't care whether they win, lose, or draw anymore. Actually, used to losing or not really competing at the top anymore.
It's brutal, and I think it all dates back to the moment that family took over ownership, the Glazers. It's just until they're gone, and even then it's going to take a long time to get them back to where they were. I confirmed 1996 Gianluca Vialli was player manager of Chelsea, which is before the Abramovich takeover. Anyway, I digress. I do want to talk about one specific thing about your life as a player. And your father's Libyan, mother Irish, so you got to wear the shirt of both countries. First with the Republic of Ireland under 20 and under 21 teams, and then later with Libya. But when you go do a little bit of research about Eamon Zayed, I just have to shout this thing out because to me, it's f***ing wild. The first note in Wikipedia below the top line is Zayed gained international fame on 2 February 2012 after scoring a hat trick in the final 10 minutes of the Tehran Derby, against, I'm going to try, Esteghlal?
Yeah, Esteghlal, yep.
Okay. In a match where Persepolis were one man down and losing 2-0 until the 82nd minute, and which was later referred to as 10 minutes with 10 men or 10-10-3 in front of 65,000 fans, Eamon Zayed. You scored a hat trick in 10 minutes to end up winning this game. Okay. You just have to tell me about that experience. You mentioned in your conversation with Josh that when you were walking around Iran, and you weren't even referencing the Tehran Derby in this miracle comeback, you said you were treated like a member of the Beatles. Well, what was it like after this 10-10-3 game? Yeah,
it was crazy. It was, we used to have this book, I'm sure Lee would have heard it, back in Ireland and the UK, called Roy the Rovers. And it was based on football. And I don't know if you guys ever heard of it or had it, but basically it was anything you could dream up could happen in this comic book. And that's kind of what it was like. It was one of those games where, again, 2-0 down and you have 10 men ultimately, and you're playing against a team that are top of the league. And geez, we were sitting mid-table at that time. So I'm sure most people were leaving the stadium, and probably other people were turning off their TV. Now, look, it was 3 chances. I feel like they kind of switched off a little bit, the opposition, and we took advantage. But listen, after that, it was crazy. It was, again, and I keep saying this, and you might have heard it before, but the best way for me to sum it up was that was 2nd of February, and the Iranian New Year was the 21st of March, I think. If I'm not mistaken, 21st of March of that year. And they invited me onto national TV for a little interview and to wish everybody a happy New Year. So the fact that I was, I guess, that recognizable at that time, that a nation of 70 million people could tune into TV and go, oh, there's that guy that scored the hat-trick, was pretty incredible and wild. And it was, again, I anytime anybody brings it up, you still kind of get goosebumps thinking about it. It was a brilliant moment.
It has to be. Do you consider that the best moment of your career as a player?
It's funny because it happened. Yeah, like it's definitely the most significant, but it happened so quick that it kind of just went by like a flash. I don't really remember. I remember the feeling of the second goal, and I remember thinking, great.
Yeah.
I proved myself. We're down to 10 men, 2-2, great result. And then the third goal happened so quick, and you have obviously fans and players kind of jumping on top of you, and I don't really remember it.
What happened so fast? 10 minutes, literally. And the down to 10 men part is crazy too. I mean, it's like a pretty unthinkable outcome.
Listen, there was other little bits within that. We could go into it and spend time on it, but I mean, for instance, like we went down to 10 men. I had just come on, not long, I think 10 minutes before we got a man sent off. The coach was actually going to take me back off because I went on as a 4-4-2 up forward. He was actually going to take me off and go back to 4-4-1, and then I scored the first goal. And that was that. I stayed on the pitch, and then when it was 2-2, our coach was Turkish, so he didn't speak Persian, so he was actually trying to tell our player to keep the ball. We had a throw, obviously, in the far side of the opposition half, and basically, time waste, kind of keep it in the corner. And the left winger at the time obviously didn't understand Turkish or what he was saying, so he spins out and crosses into the box, where usually as a coach, if it was me, I'd also be saying, no, keep it there, like, 2-2, let's get out of here with a draw.
Yeah.
So a couple of crazy moments within the game, but look, the most significant moment of my career, yes. Other moments I remember a little bit more, but that was definitely one of the moments that you look back and game changer for certain things in my career.
And it had to be culturally so significant too. I mean, you grew up in Ireland, and here you are in this derby that means so much, as you mentioned, to 70 million people. Did you end up on the receiving end of some, we'll say naughty words from the Esteghlal supporters? Yeah.
Listen, the inbox in the social media was filled with obviously mostly good things, but every now and again it was F you and F this, F the family. I listen, I'm somebody that some people look at comments, I guess, and it does affect them. I'm somebody that I loved getting abuse, whether it was through social media, whether it was during games. I loved it. It meant that you must have been doing something right, because that's they abuse players who obviously are a thorn in the side. So I loved it.
Did it motivate you?
It did, yeah. It really did. You don't really get much abuse, from fans in the States, but it was actually funny. There was Richmond fans. They have good banter. To be fair, listen, wearing sweaters, they give you abuse, and last time we played against them, they were giving me abuse. Listen, it was all part of the game. It was friendly. It was harmless, But again, last year I remember we beat them 2-0 up there, and it was great I literally just turn around and clap them and say, yeah, well done. And then I'm going to say this, when we played Spokane.
Okay, let's go.
It was one of the, I don't know if it was the last game or if it was this, we obviously played each other so many times last year. I think 3 of those were away from home.
Are you talking about the one where Ethan scored the penalty? You beat us, I think 3-1 or 3-0. It was bad.
It was the Jägermeister Cup.
Yeah.
And
you kicked our ass.
there were a group of fans, a couple of people behind me that were just they were just constant for the whole game. And, you're sitting there as a coach, and obviously you're trying to drown it out because you're concentrating on the game, but they were constant. So it was great when we obviously ended up winning that game and kind of just turning around. And again, I'm not just clapped him. Well done. Yeah, all the best. Hey,
I want to go to Richmond so bad, Eamon. I've heard so many great things about it. But anybody who ends up watching the video version of this podcast, which of course I always recommend, go to YouTube, subscribe, everybody. Spokane Soccer Show, very easy to find. You will see that this man is wearing the aforementioned sweater right now. What is going on? How superstitious are you? You're wearing it right now on a podcast.
Oh, there we are. Yeah, I actually didn't even realize that. People probably think I live and sleep and every day I'm in this. I'm actually not. I have a lot of these. These are Aaron sweaters.
I actually don't know if I believe you. I think you do live and sleep in that thing.
These are, so again, going back to the Banshees of Inisherin and the Aran Islands, this is where these sweaters are made.
Oh.
Traditionally. Yeah, so I have a collection of them. I have probably about 10 of them.
Okay, so it's not just one singular sweater.
No, I have.
Okay.
Honestly, I wear it. Actually, Lee knows this sweater because he told me after one game last year. He says, "I don't want to see that sweater again." It was a lucky sweater. No, I wear. Listen, I'll wear a sweater in games during games until we lose or we get a negative result, and then I won't wear that sweater again in a game. I'll wear it around daily in normal life, but in the games I do not wear. If we lose, I will not wear that sweater again.
Well, here's the story that I will share from the conversation you had with Josh. You talked about a game where you're wearing that sweater and it's 95 degrees. Where was it? Omaha?
Well, there was two. Go on, Omaha or Richmond. It was one or the other.
Okay.
When you finish the story, I'll tell you where.
Well, I thought you said it was Omaha, and you were like, about minute 60, you're like, what the hell am I doing? My life choices right now. I am on fire. I'm sweating profusely. You said you took it off, I think, and then you conceded.
Yeah, that would have been Omaha. It was the US Open Cup game back in 2022. Yeah. That was, and I wore it, and I was so hot, and I was thinking, I really don't want to wear this. And I think it was 0-0 at half time, and I took it off, and yeah, we conceded. We lost 2-0. We conceded kind of back to back. I actually put the sweater back on, but again, it was
it was too late.
It was too late by then. Yeah.
Oh, that's magnificent. All right. Let's take a quick break. When we return, we are going to talk about, well, if that hat trick was one of your finest moments in that Tehran derby as a player, then we're going to talk about one of your best moments so far as a manager. The Spokane Soccer Show is supported by Spokane City Credit Union. Are you a customer at a big dumb bank? Well, stop it. At a bank, you're just a customer. At a credit union, you're a member and a shareholder. You can help make decisions about what the credit union does do or doesn't do. Banks just want to get bigger by swallowing up smaller banks one at a time until there's only one or two banks left. Nobody wants that. Well, except for big banks. Since 1934, Spokane City Credit Union has remained independent, relevant, and local, with a focus on the financial needs of individuals and families in Spokane City. Go to sccu.net, Spokane City Credit Union, serving Spokane one member at a time. The presenting sponsor of the Spokane Soccer Show is Flat Stick Pub, the best pub experience in the state of Washington. Local craft beer and wine, signature cocktails, brick oven-baked pizza, Bavarian pretzels, and the best watch parties for our beloved Zephyr and Velocity FC. If you're not there with me watching soccer, grab a putter and play some mini golf or duffel board or check out the golf simulator. I have to say, as a disgustingly competitive person myself, there's literally nothing more entertaining than having a beverage and flexing on your friends in a game of mini golf. It's a perfect icebreaker too. Maybe first date. I think they won in a Best of Inlander for first date, which makes a ton of sense. You'll never have a socially awkward moment again if you spend your social outings at Flat Stick. Don't take my word for it. Head down to Flat Stick in downtown Spokane or go to flatstickpub.com to book a tea time or check out their latest tap list. Eamon Zayed, your team won the first ever Jägermeister Cup in a year that was, we're just going to say, tumultuous for Northern Colorado Hailstorm. We're not going to get into that history here. It's not the time or the place. But I want to ask you a couple questions about the tournament. So, yesterday I'm talking to Lee, and the first question that came to mind for me is, look, from all appearances, he had named an unchanged team that had won back-to-back games against Texoma first and then AV Alta, with the exception of, I think Derek had to miss one for a family thing, and there was a training injury to Siobhan John Brown. So But otherwise, he's naming his best 11. So along those lines, how did you approach the tournament last year when it came to your tactics, your rotation of players, etc.? Just take that anywhere you want.
Yeah. For the most part, it was play your best side possible. You don't want to. I wouldn't want to rest players, and then when we go into the next league game, let's say their last game of competitive soccer was obviously 2 weeks prior to that, because there's certain players that certain players respond well to a little bit of time off. But for the most part, players want to play, and they want to continue that rhythm. For the most part, I wanted to play my strongest possible team. We had created a culture of winning, whether it was a friendly game, a Jägermeister Cup game, US Open Cup game, and league game. So I wanted to play a team that I felt, and I had every confidence in every member of my squad last year.
That seems self-evident to me, because you didn't need, if memory serves, you didn't need anything out of the game against us in that final game at one stadium that you just brought up, and yet you kicked our ass and got 3 goals. So yeah, you obviously took every one of those appearances quite seriously, which why not? I think you're saying there's not enough congestion of fixtures to justify sitting players, especially if they're in form.
Yeah, I don't think there is. And even at that, like, can players play a Wednesday, Saturday game? Yeah, of course they can. I mean, they're, this day and age, strength and conditioning, fitness wise, they're all well able to play. And they want to play. That's the other thing. They want to play. They don't want to be rested. So again, you got to look at your squad, look at your team, and figure it out. But look, it's a pet peeve of mine when I look at how certain teams approach US Open Cup, or even, it was interesting over the last weekend to see how certain teams approach the Jägermeister Cup. It irks me when they think they can play a weakened side and still win.
Before we get to that, I want to ask you a couple more questions about, look, we have to shout you out. Eamon Zayed, you were the manager of the first ever Jägermeister Cup winner. I just want to make sure that we get that. I'm going to reinforce that and highlight that in this podcast. Northern Colorado defeated Forward Madison 5-4 on penalties in Windsor in front of the home crowd, which I thought for some reason it was at Bree Stevens, but it was in Northern Colorado. I went and watched the highlights from that game again to just kind of revisit things, and specifically the penalties. And now Velocity FC player Marky Hernandez. I don't remember the Panenka. That was a Panenka, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Were you? Okay, fine. I can see you shaking your head. Do you have comments about that?
No, listen, as a coach, as a player, I always felt a bit more in control because you're on the pitch. As a coach, you do your work from Monday to Friday, and once Saturday comes, look, obviously you can do stuff from the sideline and make the changes necessary, but ultimately sometimes it's out of your hands, especially penalty kicks. Now, I had every confidence in Lado Delgado as the goalkeeper and the guys that wanted to step up and take them, but I couldn't watch for the most part. And
it's so goddamn stressful.
Yeah, I do remember watching Marky's penalty, and it genuinely it almost gave me a mini heart attack. Like I was just so relieved when I hit the back of the net, and I said it to him after, some confidence when that comes off. It does. You see how opposition goalkeepers react. They hate it. They hate when somebody chips it down the middle.
And if I recall correctly, Eamon, that was the second penalty taken, so you're already in that keeper's head. Shipman for the rest of that has to be like, oh god.
100%. They hate it. So look, when it goes in and it hits the back of the net, there's relief, and there's, some cojones for Marky to step up and do that. But listen, delighted when obviously we ended up winning that penalty shootout.
Did you see the Arsenal Real Madrid Champions League tie?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. Saka goes for a Panenka that's just absolutely awful. I feel like he mishit it. He definitely had to have, yeah.
Because listen, I think if he actually did chip that down the middle, I think it would have went in.
Right, but he didn't. It was like, I think he got caught in two minds. It was weird because it was a Panenka, but it was to the side. So you're basically giving a keeper 50-50 chance, knowing that half of them just guess. So Lalo Delgado gets the one critical save that was needed to get that win, because it ended up 5-4. And hey, this is where we have a lot in common, Eamon. Velocity fans know all too well what it means to break the hearts of Forward Madison 5-4 on penalties. We did the same thing in the semifinal last year.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to get into this just a little bit. Going into that final, you were suspended, but because you had 2 yellow cards in a game for saying, telling a referee that you did not love them. And on Josh's podcast, this is the part that I find really interesting. The final hadn't taken place yet, and you were feeling pretty upset knowing that like you were going to miss it. So I want to ask you, how much did that result help with the emotions of disappointment that you did not actually get to see the final because you were suspended?
Look, it was all about the results. It really was. I mean, and I actually haven't really. After we won the game and got the result, not once did I kind of think about the fact that I wasn't on the sideline. But when it happened, I felt really hard done by, because we appealed it, and I was told, the feedback I was told was 100%. I mean, the again, I don't want to get into it, but like, we
got to get you another job, Eamon. You just keep this PG.
It shouldn't have happened. But look, it is what it is. The only thing that I cared about was winning, and being able to lift that trophy. The guys lifting that trophy meant everything to us because of what we had been through that season and all year.
It's awesome.
So again, I didn't really, whether I was there or not there, it was I was just proud of the guys that they got the job done.
As you should be. I just want to say, in on this podcast, congratulations, my friend. That was really, really cool. I just have to ask, where were you? Were you in the stands?
I was in the stands. Yeah, I was watching it. I couldn't. I couldn't.
Was that kind of fun? Were you hanging out with fans?
It was not fun at all. I mean, I'm a nervous wreck. Like,
was it fun when the final?
Oh, listen, 100%. No, listen, I jumped over the little wall that we have and ran straight towards the players and the rest of the staff, and it was probably the most emotional I've ever gotten in a game, whether it was as a coach or a player. Yeah, that, and I think when we got knocked out of the playoffs in 2023 against North Carolina, they're the 2 moments that, for different reasons, one an emotion of happiness, and one of sadness. But it definitely was the most emotional I've ever gotten. I think. Again, as a coach and as a player, it's just a different feeling. It's hard to express, but just so proud of the guys. And I wanted it for them so much. It almost, it was like a reward of
going through what they went through,
what we went through, and brought us closer together. And because when you look back in your career, whether as a coach or a player, and I said this to the guys, you remember the moments where you won something, or perhaps when you lose a final or something. But it's when you win something, it's kind of what brings a group together, and when you, in 10, 15, 20 years time, when you meet up together, you bump into each other. That's what you kind of reminisce about. I still have it as a player. When I bump into people who I've won something with, we talk about those times. So I just wanted it for the group, something that they can always have.
Where would you put it in your career so far, player or as manager, that moment?
No, manager has to be up there. It has to be probably up there right at the top. I am really proud of how we finished though last year, and finishing second in the league right before the playoffs. So kind of those 2 moments are up there. No, listen, it's up there. No matter what, it's up there. Top 3 moment as a player or as a coach.
Let's chat about the 2025 format for the Jägermeister Cup. It now includes 38 teams. This is just a reminder and kind of a primer for my listeners. So you have USL Championship, which is the second division of men's soccer in the United States. There's 24 teams in the USL Championship, and there's 14 in League One. All 38 teams are participating this year. What are your thoughts on the expanded format?
To be honest, I'm jealous. I'm jealous that I don't have a team in the format. I think it's brilliant. When they had announced the Jägermeister Cup and were talking about it prior to the start of 2024. I know they had flirted with the idea of USL Championship teams coming in, and as a USL League One coach and team, that's what you want. Like, you want to be competing against teams in the division higher. You want to be players want to pit themselves against opposition players, and coaches want to pit themselves against opposition coaches. So I think it's brilliant. Enjoyed the format last year, but this year is kind of where I wanted it to be last year. Really exciting. And if I was even USL Championship fans, they get to play against different teams that they don't see.
Yeah, I'm so far a huge fan too, because, Velocity only in our second year played against Las Vegas Lights last year in the US Open Cup, but it was away, and we were really disappointed we didn't get to host them. But to see our first championship team in one stadium, and Oakland Roots have really great history. It's a fantastic club. It was super cool to be able to see them come to our stadium. I learned a lot about their players. I can barely keep up with League One. So I was learning on the fly about some of these players, which we will get into. We'll talk about the game, of course. But one question before I move on from this expanded format. Do you think they should include League Two?
No, because they're not fully professional.
Well, I know, but they're in the Open Cup. I thought the same thing before I came on here, but I was like, but they're in the Open Cup.
No, because the USL 2 team, it's much harder to run because they usually only have those players, the access to the players for a certain amount of time.
That's true.
May to July, or so August, September, they'd probably lose most of their players to the colleges again and universities. So
even their participation in the Open Cup is a little odd. They end up signing strange players and stuff.
They sign them for like a one game.
It's gimmicky, almost like what they did with Des Moines Menace. Yeah.
Oh, listen, I think it's enough as of now. I think it's brilliant with the USL League One and USL Championship, and obviously in a couple of years' time, if they do,
true.
And when they bring in promotion, relegation, and 3 divisions, there'll be 3 divisions to play within.
Yeah. You just mentioned it, so I'm going to go there. League One did great, I think, in the opening round of this Jägermeister Cup in this new expanded format. Charlotte Independence defeated North Carolina FC. Naples handled their business against the 2024 Eastern Conference finalists, Charleston Battery. And as we all know, Spokane won 2-1 yesterday, quite comfortably, to be honest, against Oakland Roots. I'm seeing some chatter from the comments, right, that a lot of these championship sides played around with rotation. So did you see a lot of that? Did you see evidence of that in some of these games? Like not playing their best 11, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I watched a couple of the games. So I watched the Naples-Charleston game. And
of course you did.
For the most part, Charleston played their starting 11. Aaron Malloy.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah, Jennings played up top with... how do I not remember his name? Because he's on fire. He scored a couple of hat-tricks recently. But Charleston had a really strong team. For me, it looked like a full-strength team, give and take. I looked at Louisville's starting lineup as well when they played Richmond, and that again looked like Louisville are absolutely stacked, to be honest. But,
so good.
Again, looked really, really strong. I watched Hartford against Portland, and Hartford pretty much again played as close to a full-strength team, give and take maybe 1 or 2 players. So Rhode Island looked pretty strong as well. So from what I saw, most teams played close to a full strength team.
Okay,
that I would expect.
Yeah. So that says even more about the output from these League One teams that did well.
Yeah, listen, look, it kind of pisses me off the way USL League One and the USL Championship is looked at. For me, there's a group of teams in USL Championship that are better than everybody else, right? Louisville and Charleston are definitely 2 of those teams. Then there's a group of teams that in USL Championship that are, for me, are on par with the top group in USL League One.
Yep.
And then there are a few teams in USL League One then that are below that level. But there's a bunch of teams in that second tier that are very similar to each other.
I tried to explain this to a supporter and listener of the podcast that I ran into yesterday, that The disparity between the championship and USL League One is nothing like people think it's like the Premier League to the championship, and that's just not the case.
No, you don't have, like, you just don't have the Premiership and Championship. There's a massive difference in money. In
hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah.
And in all those top leagues around Europe, it's the same. In, USL League One, USL Championship, I know this for a fact because I've talked to USL Championships players. I've tried to sign USL Championship players.
Yeah.
I've lost out on players that have ended up signing for USL Championship teams. And we're literally talking like the salaries are slightly better. And I'm talking really slightly, not even to really make a big dent in your salary. Now, look, again, there's certain players for certain teams that are getting fantastic salaries in USL Championship. For the most part, it's so similar. I'm
getting annoyed every time I see the word cup set when it's a championship team playing against a League One team. I'm like, if it's Union Omaha playing against, and I'm not going to pick on any, what club should I pick on in the championship? I keep picking on El Paso, but they're doing better this year, so I shouldn't say anything about them right now. But, it's some of these League One teams are, I think, probably considerably better than the worst championship teams. So,
100%. Yeah, 100%. There's definitely, look, and again, if you look through I do think the biggest, and I would say the only cup set for me was Naples against Charleston, right?
That's so true.
Yeah, I think Charleston are definitely in that top tier of USL Championship teams, coached unbelievably well, some top players. But I thought that was definitely a cup set, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Listen, am I surprised that Charlotte beat North Carolina? No, Charlotte almost beat them a week or two ago in the US Open Cup.
That's right.
So
yep.
They're 1-0 up. So not surprised there at all. Am I surprised that you guys beat Oakland? No.
Absolutely. No, there were Oakland supporters before the game that I had read somewhere, whether it was Discord or Reddit or something, that were like, yeah, this is a concern. This Spokane team is stacked. And I do want to shout out Naples because I agree it's a cup set, but with the way that team is playing right now, with the two most important players being Lalo Delgado as goalkeeper and this kid Henderlong, I'm like, I wanted to be the one to say, can we just pump the brakes on Henderlong? He's not going to keep scoring goals. And then he does. And now I look like an idiot because he's kept this form. He's enormous. He's super athletic. I mean, he asks a lot of questions of center halves. And if he can still score that, get that one goal that they need, and you've got Lalo back there and they've got some great center halves, the defenders are they're well coached, well drilled. Yeah. Naples maybe isn't so cup setty after all, because they look really good.
They do, yeah. And look, for me, there's obviously a lot that goes into a team and formations and tactics, but it comes down to ultimately the two boxes. And can you put the ball in the back of the net and can you keep it out? And I said, listen, I'm surprised at how well Naples are doing. I had said at the start of the season when I went on a podcast to talk about the preview in the USL League One, I said that that core of the team, the spine of the team with Lalo Delgado, Dengler and Breck Evans.
Yeah.
They're going to absolutely have to stand up to get results. And they have. They've been absolutely brilliant. I think they've had, I don't know how many games they've had, but they've had five or six
clean sheets. Yeah, it's crazy.
Outrageous.
Okay, let's take one more quick break, Eamon, and when we come back, we're going to chat a little bit about Velocity's 2-1 win yesterday over Oakland Roots. The Spokane Soccer Show would not be possible without the support of Feast World Kitchen. You know what else wouldn't be possible without Feast World Kitchen? Mouth-watering cuisine from every region of planet Earth. That's what. Feast is a nonprofit that helps immigrants and former refugees in our community become chef entrepreneurs. Barbacoa tacos, yum yum Korean fried chicken, ashak dumplings, lasagna bolognese, warbat bilishta, mango mousse. That's just a few of the delicious dishes being served up during restaurant week. And lucky you, because Feast is open every week from Wednesday through Sunday on 3rd Avenue in downtown Spokane. To learn more about Feast World Kitchen, their current menu, or to order some of that delicious food online, go to feastworldkitchen.org. It fills me with joy to announce that Wildland Co-op is a sponsor of the Spokane Soccer Show. What is Wildland Co-op? Wildland is a small farm, it's a brewery, it's a winery, and it's a local goods market. 20 varieties of beer on tap, guaranteed to be something you're going to dig. A range of fantastic wines and tasty non-alcoholic beverages. So pull up an Adirondack chair on their cherry tree patio and take in all those yummy flavors amidst sweeping views of Green Bluff and the foothills of Mount Spokane. There is literally not a better place in the 509 to gawk at the warm, dreamlike skies during golden hour. I've almost run out of room on my phone taking photos of it. That's actually a true story. The Wildland Co-op is family friendly, everybody's welcome, and if you'll recall, last year, their head brewer, Michael, took me up on the idea of making a signature beer for the Spokane Soccer Show. Remember the Double Pivot Pub Ale? We're doing it again this year, folks. No announcements yet, but stay tuned. We're going to do a different beer. We don't even know what we're going to do yet, but we're going to do something really cool. For more information, go to their website or follow them on Instagram, Wildland Co-op. That's wildland.coop. Roots? What do people say?
Roots.
Some people say roots in this country, probably.
Never, ever heard roots except for you. No, today.
All right, we're back. I'm getting made fun of by Eamon for saying Oakland Roots instead of Roots. Fine, I'll take it. Having my pronunciation corrected by an Irishman. Here we go. Whatever. What happened yesterday? Let's talk about it. Goals in minute 25 and minute 43 put Spokane up 2-0 at the break. And I think Oakland were really strong to start the second half and did just enough to score a goal in minute 52. But up until that point, I'd say for the entire first half, and then after that goal that they scored, I thought they were quite crap. They just did not seem to be on the same page. We'll chat about that. But I also noted that they failed to take another shot for the last 40 minutes of the game. After that goal, I had to like double check my math on this, Sam, and it's like they didn't even get another shot. I'm talking period, on target or otherwise. No more shots in the game. So a credit to, I think, Velocity and the way that they handled this game. Tell me from your perspective, how did Velocity find success in this game, Eamon?
Listen, I thought it was a really good game from Spokane's point of view. I thought Lee obviously had them really well organised. They dealt with any threat, if you want to call it that Oakland had. Yeah. I think for me, Oakland's best opportunity in the first half came from a long throw. And then their goal came from a long throw. So you take away Oakland's long throw, they had absolutely nothing. They were so disappointing. And I haven't watched Oakland much this year. I know they didn't start well, and they picked up a couple of good results recently in the league. Well, they were so poor. Now, again, were they so poor or were Spokane so good? I think it was probably a mix of both because, Spokane looked really dangerous going forward, right? You look at the two goals that Spokane scored in the first half, really well created goals. Yeah. Really well created on that left side. The first goal was beautiful cross, really good play from Reedy, and then beautiful cross from
Derek. Yeah,
and look, a smashing header from Louis Gill. But again, he's there, he's free. There's nobody marking him. Great finish, but you look at Oakland and go, who's marking him? But great play on that left side.
In retrospect, I watched the game in replay, and I don't think I quite understood just how good Pierre Reedy was in particular in this whole game, frankly. Between Andre in midfield and Pierre down the left with Derek and a lot of, making a lot of runs together. So that first goal, I want to ask you a question about this. So it's this exchange from Derek Waldeck and Pierre Reedy. Derek makes this little underlapping run and Pierre finds him, and that part of the play is obvious. But what I also love is this near post run from Anwar Pelaez that requires two of the three center halves to cover him. And the third defender is marking the back post because Ish Jones back there, right? So Luis just kind of sneaks in, and it's obviously poor defending to some extent, but it's also just very clever movement. And Luis Heel just seems like I'm going to, whenever I get my chances, I'm going to be in the spots where center forwards would often be. It's a little easy, but it's also just clever. And it marked Luis Heel's 5th goal in all competitions. He is really firing. He looked very classy yesterday. So many classy touches. But I want to ask you a question about that first goal, in what it means when you're playing with a back three and things, and there's spacing issues.
Yeah, like the problem sometimes with a back three, right, is I always felt whenever we played against a back three, only occasionally did I ever play with a back three. I don't like playing with a back three. But what happens sometimes is that center half, right, the guy in the center, sometimes he doesn't have anybody to mark, depending on where the striker is, if he's moving to the front post, the back post, if he's spinning to the right or to the left. So often in a back three, especially if you play against a team and they only have one striker, there's always a defender that's doing nothing. I always find, and sometimes, and I always, when we were playing against a back three, we analysed how we could take advantage. And when you do push that 10 up top, or you play with 2 strikers, often there's a free player because they don't know who to mark or who's marking who. They pass on. They think, oh, well, he's got it. Oh, no, he's got it. And then you find, well, nobody's got it. And I think that's what's happened with the first goal. Two of them have run to Pelaez, and Luis Gill is just free in the middle. Now I will say from this, I remember analysing Spokane last year, and you guys, and you did, your wide play was something that obviously Lee works on, crosses into the box, and you often flooded the box with players. It was something that we always noted, that there was always at least 3, sometimes 4, sometimes 5 players in the box. And it was something that we always made sure that we tried to deal with against you guys, obviously, except for the quarterfinal playoffs. But other than that, for the most part, we
did quite well. Yep.
We did an all right job. But no, you guys do flood that box with players. Late runners as well, midfield runners. It was something that I remember thinking, all right, if we can manage that, maybe we can get them on the transition, because they flood the box with so many players. But no, look, as a coach, you try to say front post, middle, back, cover those areas with at least 3 players, and that's what you guys did. And look, great cross, great play down the great interplay between Pierre Reedy and Waldeck, and fantastic. I mean, an excellent cross, but an excellent header as well. That kind of play didn't happen with Oakland. Again, you take out their long throw, they had absolutely nothing.
It's so true. There was no dynamic movement, no interchange, nobody being played in. Just, it was pretty standard stuff, and really just didn't present much threat at all. Which is funny, because they had more shots, but none of their shots were threatening, except for the one that you mentioned from the long throw in, that Carlos Marancio made a fantastic save on that. He pushed it off of the bar, and it actually bounced twice on the crossbar before tipping over. The second goal, it's again Pierre Reedy. After seeing again the replay, I just can't believe how awesome this play was. I was on the other side of the pitch in the stadium, but he basically collected the ball from Waldeck just outside the box. Bad cross from Oakland. Gives the ball to Pierre. Pierre's off running up the pitch. He gets fouled and taken to the ground by the right back for Oakland, which creates 2 problems. One, he goes to ground. Pierre Reedy pops right back up. The ref, thank God, plays advantage. Pierre just keeps going. That defender, Kai Green, he left Oakland with a big problem with this spacing stuff, because Pierre just passes the ball to Andre Lewis. Andre takes one touch, threads the ball perfectly to Anwar Plies. He scores against his former team. Too easy, 2-0. Your thoughts on this play? Is it a little bit more of what we saw in the first goal?
Yeah, it's similar play as, again, free in the middle. Great cross into the box. Was it Andre Lewis that crossed it?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Listen, great cross into the box. Obviously, Andre Lewis had a great game, and he's capable of fantastic moments. But no, look, I'll shout out Pierre Reedy. I remember last year when he first watching you guys start the season, I thought he had something about him. He looked again direct. For me, the question mark was, all right, end product. Does he have it? Obviously got injured and missed a lot of last season. This year, you guys obviously have signed, obviously Marky Hernandez off us, and you signed Neil Vinyals and Siobhan Brown, and you're thinking, is Pierre Reedy gonna fit in? Is he gonna play? Is he gonna be on the bench? But I thought he was fantastic yesterday. I thought the first half he was exceptional. I thought his work rate as well to track back was really, really good. I think you give him the ball, he holds the ball up well, he finds those pockets of space really well. Again, he interlinks, comes inside and allows Derek Waldeck on the outside. But I love how direct he is. And I thought he was almost unplayable in that first half. I thought he was brilliant. Man, the match in that first half for sure. He helped create the first goal, and again, it was his play that led to the second goal. So fantastic play from Pierre Reedy.
He is just a true problem for opponents. I mean, you mentioned his direct play. Some friends of the podcast and I have been watching quite a bit of games in person together, Mike and Jesse, who were recent guests on the podcast, and we shout out him and Derek a lot. There have been games so far this season as we're trying to get these new players to, find some form together, et cetera, where the two players you could just always count on for that moment of direct play to ask questions of defenders, et cetera, it's been Derek and Pierre consistently. So, and it's actually, you talk about the end product. I'm really bummed for Pierre because I don't know if you got a chance to see this highlight, but I thought Spokane scored a goal in the first freaking minute of the game. Did you see this highlight?
Yeah, I did. It should have been a legit goal. I think it was poor refereeing, to be honest. So
it made no sense.
So there's a I don't know who it was. There's a player from Spokane that is offside on the delivery, right? And I'm assuming it's something.
I think it was David, but he doesn't even play the ball.
No, and I'm assuming it's something that perhaps Lee worked on. So he's not playing the ball. He's actually, it looks like he's more of a blocker.
Yeah.
Ball goes over his head to I don't know who it was.
I think it was Cam Miller.
Again, Cam Miller absolutely onside, knocks it back. Is it Pierre Reedy that finished?
And Pierre Reedy finished it. It should have been a goal.
Absolutely onside.
So frustrating.
I think the referee should have looked at that, or the linesman, and realised, he wasn't I don't think he was interfering with the play. I think he was just kind of standing in that offside position, but again, didn't connect with the ball in any way possible. So
basically, you think maybe the center ref thought that he was influencing the play from an offside position?
Perhaps. I mean, that's the only.
I don't even know if he was offside. If he was, it's weird. Yeah.
I feel like, and it's not something that I'll be
careful.
I'll be asking for, but I do feel that if VAR was a thing in USL, I do believe that goal would have been a legit goal.
Yeah.
They would have looked at David and said, how is he affecting it that much? And I don't think he was, because the ball went over his head.
Okay. Well, that explanation at least gives some form of logic as to why the center ref chalked it off. But it was a super bummer because I was like, Pierre Reedy deserved that. God. And I just want to shout out one player in particular. I texted you about this in the middle of the game. I was Googling this player because I was like, there's this kid who's playing for Oakland named Sinistera. And I'm like, yeah, I look it up. I'm like, maybe he's Colombian. Sure enough, he's Colombian. And his name is Jose Luis Sinistera. No relation. Yes, there's a player, Luis Sinistera, who played for Leeds once upon a time, now plays for Bournemouth in the Premier League. But they are a few years apart in age, and they're not related. But he, did you see the play? He rainbow flicked the ball over Lucky.
Yeah, I saw.
I need to ask Lucky about this to see if he's still recovering from his blushes.
Look, I saw it actually. Lucky. I'm going to say this. Lucky recovers well to kind of put his body, nudges him a little bit, which obviously then he doesn't really get a cross off, and it goes straight into Maurizio's arms. So, that's funny. I tell you who you should ask about that. Markey was probably on the sideline loving that. That's something that Markey does.
Really? Okay.
My word, he loves a rainbow flick.
Okay.
He loves it. So he was probably on this. I guarantee after the game, because Markey and Lucky have a great relationship. I guarantee after the game, Markey was saying something
about it. Okay.
100%.
That kid's footwork was exceptional, though. There were a couple times where I was just like, oh my gosh, he did I think he had a Zidane turn in our box where he gave it to a teammate. Fortunately for us, because the teammate didn't do anything with the ball, but he was very dangerous. Other than Sinistera, I didn't have a note on anybody on that whole team. We talked about you and I talked about Wolfgang Prentice, and he didn't do very much at all, and I didn't even know he was out there, frankly.
Yeah, no, listen, all in all, it was a poor game from Oakland, and if I was an Oakland fan, I would be looking at that kind of worried. Because, listen, I mean, it was, for me, it was a comfortable enough win for Lee, and I don't know what Lee said after the game, but I mean, I think the shape that Spokane had was great. I think they dealt with anything that Oakland tried to do. I thought defensively there was some really good performances from Spokane. Obviously, I think they were all solid at the back. I thought Derek Waldeck was fantastic on the left. I did think David was. I thought the second half he was brilliant. Brilliant in that second half, I thought.
Let's talk about it. I know you might have a bias, but I have been trying to say to my listeners for the last few weeks that the play of David Garcia has been critical to our success. And when I describe it, I just talk about his positional excellence, for lack of a better description. The fact that if there's something that's needed, and sometimes it can go unnoticed, but I'll just give one quick anecdote, and then I want to hear your thoughts about how you can expand on what people should be looking for from David Garcia. But there's this moment where, oh God, I'm not going to remember the name of the Greenville attacking player, but it was a forward, might have been Castro.
Yeah, maybe.
And it was running near post. And it was one of those moments where I think Ben Zakowski fed the ball exactly where it was Castro, where Castro would want it, but David just beat Castro to that spot by, honestly, Eamon, it's a blink of an eye. And you might take a play like that for granted. Obviously, someone like Lee would be like, hell yeah, that's my guy, or Carlos for that matter. But it's those moments that happen so often that I think an untrained eye might not realize that what he's doing all the time is just this excellence in position to make sure that threat doesn't even happen because he's there before it can form.
Yeah. Listen, I obviously had David last year. I remember last year, the very, very first game David played for us. It was our first preseason game last year against the Switchbacks. There was Ronaldo Damas playing up top for the Switchbacks. And obviously they had some really top players, but David was excellent in that game and gave them nothing. But I remember thinking, geez, this guy reads the game really well. And obviously as we had him throughout the year, there's a lot of attributes that stand out, but one of them is he reads the game really well and he covers really well. So there's moments yesterday that maybe you don't realize or remember. Oakland were breaking down the left and David just slides out to the right and makes a couple of sliding tackles or clearances.
Yeah.
Then crosses into the box. That front post area, he's just there, just clearing them away. I remember last year he said to me, I used to have him marking in corner kicks. I remember last year, kind of start of the season, he said to me, and I always asked the player, where do you prefer to be? And he said, look, can I be free? And I wasn't so sure because I thought he was one of our best man markers, but I ended up giving him that free role in the center of the goal for corner kicks. And yeah, he would just go and attack, and it always meet the ball. And it's fantastic. His awareness is awareness in terms of reading a striker, reading their runs. A striker might be quicker than him, but again, he just reads the play so well.
So can I ask you a question about that, Eamon? Yeah. I want to be educated in addition to my listeners on this. So when you're talking on a set piece or a corner kick, the defensive assignments, it's either man marking, typically marking one of the posts, or you're saying free. By free, you don't mean zonal. You mean you'll have a couple of zones. Listen, again, every coach is different.
Sure. We had last season we had 3 zones, and most. Well, like I say, most corners kind of, you want that front zone. So we had a big guy in the front zone, Ethan Horde. Obviously, look, if you can get over 6'5", all the best. So he would be in that front zone. But that middle zone is obviously vital. It may be the most important zone to kind of, because you're reading it whether it goes towards the front, the back, the middle.
And that's what you mean when you use the term free is front post, back post, and middle is just kind of like, that's up to you.
He's in the zone, but ultimately, like it's first and foremost, your job is the zone. But then if you can then add to it and because some players might go, let's say, Davy might be in the middle zone, the ball goes to the back and he goes, well, it's not my zone. But if you can add to it and read the play, whether it's the front zone or back zone, and you can actually, get out of your zone to clear that ball, well, that's even better. That's a bonus. And I think that's just something that David has. I think, yes, he'll look after his forward, but if he has to go out to the right and cover the right back, if he's playing right centre back, well, no problem. He'll go and do that as well.
So as his manager, you're trusting his judgment a lot by allowing him to have that role.
100%. Okay. Listen, if he jumps out of his zone and we get punished, or if he reads the play and it's a bad decision, well then we'll obviously go over that in video. But more times than not, he makes the right call and the right judgment. And if you have confidence and trust that a player reads the game that well then as a coach, you'll let him go and make that judgment.
Okay.
Because most of the time he does make the right call.
We obviously have two other former Northern Colorado players. We haven't seen enough play out of Markey for me to spend a lot of time chatting about him, but we obviously expect great things. There's so many more games to be played this year. I want to have you back on the podcast. I just want to segue into another topic. Okay. Lucky also leads the team in assists. I think I should just go ahead and mention that he's balling out, and he covers himself very well in the attack and defending. I think he's made good on the promise of the conversations that I had with my listeners on the preview podcast for Velocity FC in 2025. So, Eamon, I kind of feel like you now have a fairly deep connection to Spokane Velocity between the three former Northern Colorado players that are playing here, but also your relationship with Coach Lee Wiedemann. You told me the story, and I'd love for you to share a version of it with our listeners, that back in 2021, when Lee Wiedemann had been named he was the interim head coach of OKC Energy, and he was having success. He had helped that team turn around from a really tough and very rocky start to that 2021 campaign. But you were there on a particular day, and I would just, you take it from there. Like, what happened?
So, 2021, November, December time, I was at a combine. It was down in Phoenix. Phoenix Rising were hosting it. Obviously, I was invited in. Actually, it was the Las Vegas combine was the first time I met Lee, and that's when we kind of started building a relationship. And then it was a few weeks later, it was a combine in Phoenix. And Phoenix Rising were hosting it, but it wasn't a Phoenix Rising combine. It was another organization. The night before, me and Lee were talking just, all things soccer over a beer. And he had mentioned to me that he was looking for an assistant coach, and he threw out a couple of names. One of them was actually Colin Falvey, who became my assistant coach here in Northern Colorado, that Lee had spoken to. And obviously we were talking about him. We were talking about a couple of players as well that Lee was interested in. So everything was absolutely in Lee's mind. He was focusing on starting a season with Oklahoma in the USL Championship 2022. So anyway, the next day, Lee is setting out the pitch, and me and it was actually Wangera, who was above in one of the boxes, just kind of looking down onto the pitch. And as Lee is setting out, obviously a warm up, I'm assuming, because they're going to play games. The phone rings, and we're kind of just looking down on Lee, and quick enough phone call, and then Lee kind of goes to and just kind of sits down, and he looks like he's disappointed, he's frustrated, he's sad, he's pissed off. Obviously, it was a phone call. We were aware that he had gotten a phone call, but we weren't aware what it was. We just knew that it was not great news. And then I think 10 minutes later, we look on Twitter and we see that OKC have decided, I don't know what happened, but they weren't going to be playing USL Championship soccer in 2022. And obviously that was the call that Lee had gotten. So I had asked Lee later that day, when we got him, were you aware that this was going to happen? And at the time he said no. He says, look, I was doing my job. I was preparing for a season to start in 2022 in the USL Championship as head coach. And it was kind of out of left field that OKC decided, or whatever happened, that they weren't going to play in USL Championship. So look, that was obviously those two combines, but that combine was one where obviously a friendship with Lee began, mutual love of football, soccer, USL, assistant coaches, players. As a head coach, it's good to have those relationships with other coaches, and it's good to be able to pick up a phone and pick somebody's brain.
It's impossible not to imagine that you developed a friendship, given the fact that 3 of your former players from Northern Colorado ended up on Velocity FC. I'm sure many private conversations were had about those players during the lead up to them signing with Velocity FC. And I have to also make an assumption based on the fact that, 75? I think I saw the stat, and 75% of people from Liverpool have some Irish ancestry, including the Beatles, by the way. Yeah. So I love that you have this connection with Coach Wiedemann. Yeah. May it continue. I want to have you back on the podcast. You've got to go to Dublin, get that UEFA. You're going for the UEFA Pro license. Is that what you said?
The UEFA Pro license, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to starting that. That'll keep me busy. And yeah.
I was going to pick that big football brain of yours about the form so far of Velocity FC through their first 9 games of 2025. But you know what? I'm going to save it so that you'll come back. So let's get a few more games behind us, and then we will resume this conversation about Velocity FC. It's been a super huge honor to have you on the podcast. I massively appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on the Spokane Soccer Show, Eamon Zayed. The next game for Velocity FC is going to be next weekend, May the 4th, a big old Star Wars tie-in against Westchester SC. That's it for the show. Thank you, Coach Eamon Zayed. Once again, we will definitely do this again, maybe from Dublin.
You're looking forward to it. Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. Don't forget to rate and review the show, everybody. And until next time, thank you for listening.
Cheers.